played about 3 hours, 3.5 is what it looked like from what I could tell. And I have some thoughts. I have some thoughts for sure. I think it's really frustrating because I understand where like a lot of the fans are in regards to like how they're praising this game so far. But I just feel like it's a swing and a miss for Nintendo. The fact that they're basically handicapping, like they're hamstringing the devs to make a game on a console that is far outdated as far as the tech goes at this point. It's frustrating because it's like you look at the visuals, you look at everything that's there, and it's like the art style's there, it looks good, but I guarantee you, like, the developer's vision was not jaggies on the characters. And there's a lot of jaggies on that game. I guarantee you also that, like the dev's vision was not sub 30 frames per second. Guarantee you that. Like they want something buttery smooth. They want you to feel like you're immersed in the experience. And that's not there. Like I had a pretty substantial amount of times where you could tell it was kind of like grinding to a halt as far as the frames per second went.
Wait,
Like once or what's that?
isn't only the Series S the one that cannot do more than 30?
Nope, nope. It's interesting some of the damage control I've seen over the last couple of weeks. I I get it. It's like, you know, I want games to be good too. And I understand that like this is a hardware constraint thing. It's not like the team necessarily had much of a choice for this game to come out the way that it did. But I also don't feel like the reviews were fair. Dropping a bunch of tens and nines when the game is plagued by this many issues on the hardware scale. I'm sorry, but like that doesn't pass the muster with me. It's the same thing with like Redfall. It's like I heard a lot of people being like, no one's gonna punish these games for low frames and stuff like that. Why not? It doesn't make a good experience when the game is chugging in sections. And I think the thing that frustrates me about this game, and it's a problem I had with Breath of the Wild as well, is when I was playing the game, I felt like it was very empty. Like it's a very big world. There's a lot that could be going on, but it felt like it wasn't very lived in. And I feel like that's still kind of a regular occurring theme on this. I feel like, you play something like Cyberpunk, you play some of these other games nowadays, and it feels lived in. There's a bunch of characters roaming around, there's stuff going on. And obviously, that speaks to the fact that there's limitations on the hardware that prevent you from having that much stuff going on. There's not enough memory on that system to run that much at once. So I
Hmm.
get that. It's the same thing as the graphics, right? They don't have the same anisotropic filtering or some of like the trilinear filtering or some of those ones that like PC or some of the Xbox and PlayStation stuff has. And so you see that, like you see some of those ugly warts and moles on the game, and it sucks because again, like I said, you can tell that the devs have done a really good job with what they were given, but at the same time I can't give that a 10 or a 9 and pretend like those things don't exist. I feel like that's kind of a disservice, and I feel like if you give them a 10 or a 9 for this game and say, "Atta boy, you did fantastic," I feel like Nintendo takes that as feedback where it's a first party and says, well, we don't really need to worry about changing up the hardware that fast because everyone's happy with the status quo. I
Hmm.
don't think that's I don't think that's a valid reason to just be like, it's fine.
Well,
Like,
if reviews are great and then the game is selling like hotcakes, and
yeah. Yeah, which we know it has been, right? So we were talking about it earlier today and it was what, like 13 million copies? 10 or 13, somewhere in that range.
wow.
That's a lot of copies in the span of 4 or 5 days. That's impressive. I'll give him props there. But at the same time, I mean, it better be selling that much. It's a first party for that system, and it's one of the games that they see as a system seller for their system. If it wasn't selling that much, I'd be concerned. it's not that big compared to the install base, and I'm sure that'll obviously change as time goes on, just like PSVR 2 for the PlayStation will.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I could sit here and I could drone on and on and on, but essentially the long and short of it is, seems like it's a good game from what I can tell, but it seems like it's a hollow experience because they had to deal with hardware constraints that honestly, like, again, I don't think that's what the devs' creative vision was to have to work around those constraints. I
Yeah.
feel like that was a disservice to the devs. They should have already brought out that Switch Pro at this point. The hardware is outdated.
It's
But
coming. It's coming on June.
I keep
What?
hearing that it's coming. Yeah,
No,
people
June.
are
They announced
June?
it. You
sure.
missed it?
No,
What?
I
What?
must have.
Yeah,
I
it's
must
called
have.
the Switch Ally.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
I've got one of those coming, incidentally. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Um,
But
but
crazy. What
but
you been playing?
oh,
Crazy.
hold on, real quick
Oh,
before
okay.
before you bounce.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm just gonna hog all the time today. I did play something else, and I have had a much more enjoyable experience with it so far, and that has been Resident Evil 4,
Oh,
the remake.
nice. I
That
bet.
has been a lot of fun so far.
Yep.
Visually, the game plays really well. Like, the controls and everything have been great.
And
I never ended up fully completing the game back when it was on GameCube back in the day. I didn't pick it up after it came back out on PS2. So this is my first time actually doing a full complete game playthrough on it, and I'm
nice.
really enjoying it.
Im-
It's good. I'll
imagine
report back as I have more.
imagine
Oh,
Code Veronica
No, no one
today.
wants to. No one wants to imagine Code Veronica.
What? Come on.
No,
okay. Before I go to crazy,
What's up?
I just want to say, you guys heard it from Silent Cypher. Okay, we have nothing to do with it. I don't know if crazy
Yep.
has something to do with it. He basically said Resident Evil 4 was better than Zelda. We did not. We got no
I've
responsibility on that.
Yeah.
I will tell you this, and again, uh, being completely fair, the hardware constraints. When you're playing on a Nintendo Switch, you're not going to have a game as visually stunning as a game on newer hardware. Like, the Switch is outdated at this point. If they had newer hardware that could handle more of the functionality, more of the features, then yeah, Zelda would look great. Zelda would not have jaggies all over the place. Like, I
Um,
look around, I'm like, this is a beautiful place. And we were talking about it behind the scenes. The audio, I feel like, is the only thing that isn't negatively impacted by the Switch
wow.
and the hardware constraints. Like, everything else, I feel like you have to, if you are being diligent in your rating on the game, you have to deduct points for the fact that it plays kind of like hot trash in some spots.
Dear Lord.
Sorry.
Heavens. Okay. Okay.
Facts are facts, and facts hurt sometimes.
Yeah.
Truth hurts.